Blanche Jordan Scott, you're here with us.
Yes.
You have got some Elvis stories that you have put in a book, and I bet you know some stories that you haven't even printed. She's got a book that she's done, Elvis, a boy from Tupelo to a man from Memphis. What a great book title. And you have, tell us about you and how you ever met Elvis, what your association was.
Well, at age 14, young teenage Elvis Presley was walking.
What was that, 10 years ago?
Yeah, just 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yesterday when we were young.
That's right.
Yesterday when we were young. But Elvis was walking from Humes High School to Lauderdale Courts,
Okay.
where they had, his parents moved up here when he was age 13, and he was living at Lauderdale Courts on a government-subsidized program.
Very nice place.
Oh, yes, really nice, even back then, you know.
Yeah.
And so he was walking to Lauderdale Courts from when he got out of
So they were living on
classes.
government subsidized housing.
Right.
Okay.
And so old St. Joseph Hospital was located right where St. Jude is now.
Right.
And so from age 14 to 18, I worked on a school program at old St. Joseph Hospital. When we got out from our classes,
Was Sister Rita there back then?
yes. Man, everybody thought she was the holy one.
That's
you
right.
know. You walk softly.
As
with her.
doctors, she scared us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she scared us more.
Right.
So from age 14 to 18, I was working on the coffee shop during the school days and on B3 as a nurse's aide
Right.
on the
I
weekends
know
and all summer.
Okay.
And so that put Elvis and me walking together every school day. And so we just, as walking together, we learned that we were both from small towns in Mississippi.
Where are you
Not
from?
the same one.
Where are you from?
But I was born in Lambert, and we lived down there by Rome, which is a little speck,
Right.
about a mile and a half from Tutwiler.
I went to Ole Miss, so I know where all of these places
Okay, well, to skip ahead in time, all the jazz musicians are saying now that that's where the blues began, is there at Tutwiler, Mississippi.
are. Oh, really? Okay.
And Rome, Mississippi is about a mile and a half from there.
Mhm.
And, but anyway, that's skipping ahead in time.
But you were walking home. What type of person was he back then? I mean, the same person, I'm sure, but what were some of the characteristics you noticed?
Well, when I met Elvis Presley, he was just a skinny little kid, but he still had that charisma, even at age 14 and
Really?
15 and 16, that it was something special about him. But when I met him, he was just a skinny little kid, but I watched Elvis Presley grow into a hunk of a man.
Okay.
And so anyway, we would walk, and I met George Klein roughly at the same time in the same area. And we would walk across from Humes High School. There was a service station on the corner there at Jackson and Manassas, and that sold Cokes and things like that. And so every who had the nickel bought the Coke. We were so poor back then. So we
Now, was that the time where you'd pour the peanuts in the Coke
pour
bottle?
the peanuts in the Coke.
See, I know this.
And then Elvis loved grapettes.
Grape-ette? If
anybody
grape-ettes
knows
were great.
what a
If you've
grape-ette
never had
is.
a grape-ette, you've missed it. Oh, he loved grape-ettes.
He loved grapettes, which very few
What would he
people
eat with
know.
the grape-ette?
Well, if we had potato chips, like I said, we didn't have any money.
Not right.
We were so poor back then.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, as we walked, we learned that we were from small towns in Mississippi, and that gave us a bond.
Okay.
And so he knew that my family was listening to the same Grand Ole Opry that his family was listening to
Okay.
every Saturday
So it was
night.
mostly country music.
Yeah,
everybody was listening to.
country music. Roy Acuff and all of those people. And so that gave us a bond that I didn't think he was weird, having a guitar stashed under one of the front porches that we went past every day. And he would
Now,
grab
wait
me
a
by
minute.
the
Wait a minute.
hand.
Guitar stashed under a front porch.
Of, you know what a shotgun house is?
Sure.
All right, there was like 5 or 6 of them there in front of St. Joseph Hospital.
Okay.
Where the fire station was there for a
Right.
while.
Right.
Okay, so he had a guitar stashed under the front porch. And so before
But it wasn't his house.
No, but see, I didn't know that. He didn't say this.
He just put it under the
He
front porch.
Nobody bothered it or anything.
Okay.
So whatever song that he had been rehearsing, then that's what he wanted me to listen to. For off and on for 7 years, I was with Elvis Presley some part of maybe every day or
Okay.
a lot during the week, and I was his sounding board.
Okay.
What do you think of this, or what do you think of that?
So actually, rock and roll was shaped by her. If she didn't like it, it didn't go.
Well, so I learned at age 15 that you don't tell Elvis Presley that you don't like anything. So
You
I'd
just
say,
tell him you like something
I'd
better.
say, I like this one better than that.
Yeah.
That's got me through life.
Okay.
I like this better than that. But he would, and he did that all the way, you know, when he started getting some little jobs, he would still want to rehearse with me because my mom passed away in 1944 and my dad remarried. And this lady was from the same area down there by Lambert and
Okay.
Marks and all those places that all of our families had known each other.
Okay.
But her family did the fiddle and the guitar and everything every day in my household because everybody wanted to be a Grand Ole Opry star
Sure.
to get out of the cotton patches. And so I thought he was better than what was going on in my household.
Right.
And so I just thought everything he did was great. So he loved to sing to me because I just liked everything he did.
Do you remember any of the early songs that he tried to do?
Oh, he did
I mean, was he doing songs that other
My
people?
Happiness,
Okay.
and then he did Roy Acuff, something the other like Getting Down on Saturday Nights or something, but it wasn't like
Didn't do
the
your
song
cheating
later
heart
than
and
that.
all of that.
Oh
did-
yeah, he
Oh,
would
did?
do a little bit of all that stuff. Whatever was on the
You
radio.
know, if only you'd had a tape recorder.
If only I'd had a camera. We
Tape
didn't
record-
even have the money for the nickel, much less for anything else, you know.
But only a tape recorder. But you got it in your memory.
Yeah, but
Okay.
so let me regress just a little bit. Back when I grew up at Rome, Mississippi, my dad was an overseer of a plantation,
Okay.
which had maybe 15, 20 black people
Mm-hmm.
that did the crops. And the man that owned all of this lived there in Rome, a little old town
Okay.
that had a gin and a
Okay.
post office
Right.
and a grocery store. And so Dad would take, now I'm talking about 1938, 1939, my dad would take these people in the trailer on Saturday nights to get their commissary.
Okay.
Okay, when they would get through getting their supplies, and the little old place wasn't much bigger than one of these red barn outbuildings or something now, but they would take out their guitars and their fiddles, and they would get down, and there was a little old countertop, and Dad would set me up on the counter, and they called it juking, and it was the beginning steps of the jitterbug.
Oh, was it?
And it was that little step that you come up like this and this. And so Dad danced with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then all these years later, I learned that the blues musicians, and some of them are still down there in Clarksdale, Mississippi,
Right.
say that that's where the blues began, was at Tutwiler, Mississippi. That one of the famous ones said that he was sitting in the train station there at Tutwiler when he first heard this music, and that it was strange from anything he had ever heard. And that this was after I had written my book, that I read his write-up on that he said that's where the blues began, was in Tutwiler, and Rome was 1.5 miles
That's
from where
amazing.
I saw these people juking.
What kind of stories are in the book? I mean,
Now I have some of that stories in there.
okay.
And then I tell the story that, now I wouldn't say I taught Elvis Presley anything because he made everything his own, but I showed him that little jitterbug step.
You did?
We danced that together. And some of his performances, you'll see him do that little
The
step.
step.
And I'm still showing some of the Elvises that come into town in August that little step.
We call them Elvis tribute artists. No longer Elvis impersonators.
No, they're Elvis tribute artists. Yeah,
And you teach them
well,
some of them.
I didn't teach it, but I showed them. You know, the little step.
All you gotta do is some
hang,
of those are so talented. You just show them once
yeah,
and they're good.
they hang out at the Clarion Hotel.
Mhm.
So I'm there every January and every August with all
Yeah.
the Elvis guys. all the
That's
Elvis
great.
tribute artists.
That's right.
And they're very good, polished, professional entertainers. They're not Elvis, but
Right.
they're
Which,
very good.
what I've noticed is when they do that, when they mimic him, some of that
They
charisma.
take on a persona.
Yeah, they do.
They take on
And
a
some of
persona.
that charisma comes through.
Absolutely.
Not all of it, but
absolutely.
some of it.
The magic comes through on some that you know, Elvis would be proud that they're all giving him that tribute.
Mhm.
But some of them really are really good.
They really come through.
And
Yeah,
like Adam Fitzpatrick
Mhm.
was, he came in second, and
Really?
he's one of them that was there at the Clarion that I'm with. But anyway, there was a dance that Elvis and I did together that back in the 50s that we did the camel walk.
Okay.
If you've ever heard of that you come up on your toe, and then as you put it back behind this foot, well, you come up on this one.
Oh, really?
And you go, and you'll see him do that going across the stage with the camel walk sometime in some of his performances.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyway, so we walked and talked, and now some of the, when I was up on the B3 floor, and at a teenager, but I was with some of the best surgeons in the world were interns then.
Oh,
when
were
I
they?
was 15 to 18. I still have friendships with some of them
Yeah.
and their families. But whatever, there was a fire escape. There was no air conditions back then. And there was a fire escape at the end of the hall. And back then, all the visitors had to leave by 4 o'clock. And Elvis knew the layout of the hospital and everything. So he would come up on the fire escape, and we would sit there and watch the sun go down
My goodness.
and talk about whatever his hopes, dreams, and fears.
What were some of
and
his hopes,
mine.
dreams, and fears that you
Well,
can remember?
Well, one of the stories was that this lady was burned so badly, one of my patients, that she was burned so badly over in Arkansas in a house fire that we had to submerge her in a solution in the bathtub
Mhm.
that was supposed to help her and heal her.
Right.
And it was so painful and so terrible. And I sat there and told Elvis about this lady for months and months, and I would cry, and he would cry with me. And I really feel like that had an impact on some of his generous contributions to
Really? The
Burn
Burn Center.
the Burn
The Burn
Center.
Center. The Elvis
Yeah, so that's what
Burn Center.
George Klein and some of my other friends said, that I had to tell my stories because some of my stories had an impact on the man and the entertainer that he became.
Do you think back then, I mean, all the kids dreamed to be this and that. Do you think he really knew
Elvis-
where he was destined to do?
Elvis felt like, and I ended my talk at the Levitt Shell
Right.
with telling this story, that Elvis felt like that God gave him this voice
Mm-hmm.
to bring people together.
Okay.
But he didn't know how he was going to do it. But he felt like that was his destiny to use his voice to bring people together. And then I ended it by saying, just turn around and look at each other. Look at each other in any crowd.
Right.
You don't have anything in common but Elvis Presley. He's
That's
still
true.
doing it.
Yeah.
He's still bringing people together.
That is amazing.
And he felt like that, and that was his goal, to be some kind of entertainer. Of course, he never visualized that after 36 years he would still be bringing people together. But he wanted to, down in Tupelo, they weren't high class.
Uh-huh.
And his dream was to make $1 million, so his mom wouldn't have to work so hard. And so that
So he wasn't doing it for himself.
No, he wasn't doing this for himself. He wanted to do this for his mom. Oh, he loved his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave us another bond, see, because I had lost my mom, and I was
Right.
a basket case when I met him.
Right.
And so I cried on his shoulder many, many, many times, but he loved his mom like I loved mine. And he wanted to make $1 million so his mom wouldn't have to work, and he could buy her a mansion, and he could dress her up in a fur coat and all this jewelry in a Cadillac and drive her back through the streets of Tupelo. And he did it.
Did he?
He did it.
How did that happen? Did you?
I know that he dressed her up in the Cadillac and the furs and the jewelry, and they went back down there and they gave him the key to the city at Tupelo.
He had his mother there with him.
Oh yes, that was the main reason to go.
That is a great story.
Oh yeah, that was his mom. That was, he just loved his mom so much. He just worshipped her, and Elvis never really got over her death.
Yeah.
He still took that to his grave.
Did
That
he?
how much he loved his mom.
When's the last time you saw him?
Well, in 1956, now, but back to our stories, we
Yeah.
walked all the north end of Main
Right.
streets and all along the river and all the Cossack Library and Confederate Park. We walked all the north end when I was there at St. Joseph Hospital.
Right.
We walked all the south end at Beale Street, W.C. Handy
Right.
Park, and what is the park down there that the man saved all the people in the boat? You know where the Beale Landing is now.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we walked there and we'd walked down all the way down to the river. That we fell, tumbled, whatever, till we get down to the water's edge, and we'd walk along the waters of the Mississippi River. We did all the south end when I was at Peril and Lowenstein.
Okay.
And when I was at Peril and Lowenstein, now the story that I was on a float in 1951, the Cotton Carnival float, and we made the floats on a barn-like building there on North Main.
Mm-hmm.
So Elvis went with me to pick up my pictures and the pictures in the book. And so Mr. Mike App was in a wheelchair, and he helped all of us kids make all the floats. And he said, "What have you been doing?" I said, "I've been looking for a job. You know, the St. Joseph is just
Right.
a school program." He said, "Well," said, "don't start at the bottom." Said, "Let me make a phone call." So he came back and he said, "I called Philip Peril at Peril and Lowenstein Jewelry Store, 144 South Main, and said, you go down there now. He's going to hire you. I told him you're a good worker." So Elvis and I went to Peril and Lowenstein. He went with me, 144 South Main.
Yeah.
When we walked through the doors of Peril and Lowenstein, and all of y'all, you're too young, but the Peril and Lowenstein was there where Peabody Place is now.
Oh, I remember.
Between Gayoso and Beale. So that put Elvis.
His son
in-
Ron and I went to school together.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ron.
yeah.
Oh, now Ron was 15. You
Yeah, I
know.
know.
Back.
Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, so between Gayoso and Beale, so that put Elvis and me between the famous streets of Gayoso and Beale Street.
Right.
But anyway, he was with me, and when we walked in that door, he was all these beautiful mirrors on each side, chandeliers.
Right. It was a beautiful
All
store.
these beautiful diamonds, rubies, emeralds, gold, all this stuff. When we walked through that door, two kids from the Mississippi mud, we thought we were Alice in Wonderland. We were in awe. Philip hired me, and I worked there almost 10 years.
That is great.
So that put me still close enough for Elvis to come down and have lunch with me at that orange juice stand there by the Lowe's State Theater. Well, it was actually by the Strand.
People don't understand the Lowe's Palace, the Lowe's State, the Strand, and the Orpheum was the Malco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and they were like castles or something.
All these movie
Beautiful,
theaters downtown.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. But back to the mirrors, Ron Peril, when they demolished the store, he has those in his foyer of his
does
home,
he?
and he sent me the pictures that I've got in the book.
Okay.
And he came to my first book signing.
That is so great.
And when he walked through the door, he looked just like his dad, Russell Peril.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyway, that put me there by W.C. Handy Park in Beale Street, that Elvis would come down and have lunch with me every day. All right, so he had been singing to me at all these different places on North Street. All right, so he worked at Lowe's State Theater briefly. And when you came up from Main Street, here was all this beautiful chandeliers and everything. But what you didn't realize, when you went up and you were coming down into the theater, you were going over the alley.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the alley was where the Peril Lowenstein employees
Right.
went in to work and to come out.
Right.
Okay, there was the exit door from Lowe State Theater that Elvis learned about that opened into that alley.
Yeah.
And there was a little cove there that nobody could see, that was the exit that you could come in and out of. So whenever he had a song or something that he wanted to run by me, he would tell me, be there. And he would be there in that alley, and after everybody left in 10 minutes, well, then he could sing and tell me whatever he was going to do on Ted Mack or Tom, whatever, all the different ones. So Elvis went very upset with Ed Sullivan that only filmed him from the waist up.
Right.
And so he was...
where are all your dance steps?
Yeah, we were in that little cove, and Elvis was just tearing up, and he said, said, that hurts me so much of them talking about me being vulgar. Said, I'm just moving with the music. And said, I never do anything to disgrace my mom. And said, I'm just really, that just really upsets me. I'm upset over it. And I said, listen, don't let them change you. I said, you're sexy if you just wiggle your little finger. I said, you don't have to move, you don't have to do anything. And in some of his performances, he wiggles his little finger.
Really?
Of course, every girl in the world probably thought that he was doing it for them, but I hoped it was for me.
Yeah, and people would faint when he would do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, we have your book, and how can they get your book?
They can just call the phone number in the back.
There's a phone number in the back,
and
they can get your
got
book.
It on this one, but it's 901 358 1461.
358-1461. Okay, 901-358-1461.
Yes.
You want to write that down? And also, we've
I
got
have
several
the DVD.
pictures. Wait a minute. We've got a DVD here? All
Yeah,
right.
They filmed me in Elvis's Lauderdale apartment.
So this is
They say it's
filmed
gonna be
in
a
the apartments.
They say it's going to be a collector's
It
item.
definitely is. DVD, right here. And now, is this put out? Is this available commercially?
Yes, it's available also. There's the phone number on this.
901-358-1461.
Yeah, they have them for sale at the Cotton Museum
Okay,
and at Memphis Outlet
okay,
and at Davis Kid, which is now Laurelwood.
okay.
But they can get me from that phone number.
And now I'm just going to show these to you, just a little bit, because you can come on the website elvistruestories.com and see some of these pictures you won't see anywhere else. This is a pic. No, you can't see it all. And this is swimsuit model. Oh, can't see it all, but you can see it on the website. No, not all. You have to come to the website to see it, and we'll also have the ordering information on the website. So you've got some rare pictures of this wonderful person who had such a personal, close, from childhood, and I consider 14, 15 childhood, on in the early part of Elvis Presley.
Till he made Love Me Tender, and all the reporters were with him everywhere that he went.
Right.
And so he met me there in Peril Lowenstein. He'd come in there and have lunch
You have
with me.
to
and
slip
everything.
off to the alley.
Yeah, but he'd come in there and we'd go eat. He'd
Yeah.
meet me in there and we'd go eat it and have a hamburger down there at White House Cafe.
Mhm.
But one story that George Klein had me tell Lisa Marie Presley, he got a backstage VIP pass for me to tell her when she had her concert, that Elvis and I would go down to W.C. Handy Park to watch the black musicians play. And Elvis was so far ahead of his time that he felt like that you had 10, maybe 20 minutes to impress somebody.
Yeah.
And if you didn't come on strong and
Mhm.
do it in that length of time, they weren't going to remember you. So we went down there, and these people were coming on strong. They were wearing pink shirts and
Mhm.
black pants and all this stuff, silk. And so anyway, I was with him down there at W.C. Handy Park, and we'd go down there and have our lunch, our sandwiches or whatever, and listen to the black musicians. And so he really, we were there, and this couple got up and sang, "That's all right now, Mama, just any way you do."
Yeah.
And he grabbed me by the hand, and we went around to the back side of the park, and he could pick up anything just like that. So he sang it to me with his hands on my hips, so I could still feel him. And so when he got through singing, "That's all right now, Mama," he said, what'd you think about that? I said, I think you're better than they are. I think you're better than they are. They just changed music all over the world and styles and everything. And I think you're better than they are. So when I told that story to Lisa Marie, she had tears coming down, and she said, thank you so much for telling me these stories about my dad when he was young. I don't know the stories about my dad when he was young.
Isn't that fabulous?
And but a little secret, that couple, when they were singing to each other, they said, that's all right now, L-I-L, that's all right now, little mama, just any way you do, that's all right now, little mama. And when Elvis did his 1972 Madison Square Garden concert, you'll hear him for 2 lines say, that's all right now, little mama, just any way you do. Well, see, George Klein and I both said, that's all right now, little mama. And so one of my church ladies said, why do you keep saying that? Said, that's not right. Said, that's all right now, mama. I said, I'm going to have to ask George, but I said, I know that's the way Elvis sang it. So I asked George, and I got to listen to George on the radio, and George was saying, that's all right now, little mama, just like I was.
Just like he learned, like he learned it, as we say.
Right.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time to come here and give us some insider information, because this goes out to a lot of people that just love Elvis Presley and the huge impact he made. And now we've found someone that actually impacted Elvis Presley. So we're going back another iteration, I won't say another generation, but it's where his roots.
But I wouldn't take credit for anything that I ever influenced Elvis, because
everybody
made it
says
his own.
He made it his own, but everybody you touch, you have an influence on. And that's what you need to know too. Everyone you touch, everyone you talk to, you have an influence on. And we very much appreciate you being here. And your book, your DVD, the pictures, and we just, I can't tell you what it means to
It
us.
seems like that it was meant to be that you acquired the Chisica Hotel.
We're working through to get that working right.
I walked there, and it's a picture in the book of Dewey Phillips with my brother and my son.
Oh, really?
That nobody else in the world has. But see, most people don't realize that George Klein was working with Dewey Phillips on a school program, and that when I was working at the hospital and at Carolyn Lowenstein, and when Elvis would come down to have the hot dog or whatever, and we'd walk down to Beale Street, and there was a fruit stand, and he loved nectarines, and he would take a bite and give me a bite, and he'd say, here, take a bite, and I said, yeah, that's just your way of having me eating out of your hand.
Oh.
But we would go, then he would walk down to Dewey Phillips and visit with George in Dewey Phillips. So George had a whole lot of influence on his career and of Dewey Phillips playing the song.
With that, I'm George Flinn. You've been watching The Superhero University, and you can get this or any of the other replays at thesuperherouniversity.com. Also, if you'd like to get any of this material, you can go to elvistruestories.com. I'm George Flinn. We'll see you next time. Thank you. And now the live TV show is over, but we're still on the air, on World Wide Web, on the internet, and we're doing a Google Hangout. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, I just
The
appreciate you having me.
stories are great, and we will have this up. It'll be on Google, it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on podcast, it'll be all over the place. Once more, for anyone that's